Previously on StillerBros at the movies.
I'll be interested to see what this is, especially because this is only the first half of the story.
Yeah, the other thing that they did when they decided, hey, we're finally going to make Wicked, was, oh, by the way, this is a lot to make, so how about we split it in half? Now, the thing with that is that part one of Wicked here is longer than the full Broadway musical.
Yeah.
And they have not added any songs as far as anyone can tell. So, don't know what they did, don't know if that's going to weigh it down or anything like that.
And speaking of the rest of the movie, we come to the parts that we now have to wait a year for the second half of this story.
But for right now, this is a pretty good version of the first half of what might be a good movie depending on how part 2 does. And we know there will be a part 2 because they already shot it, so unless something terrible happens this weekend and the box office numbers just completely collapse in on themselves, I don't think we'll have a problem with this movie actually having its sequel completed and released sometime next year.
And now,
Lucy, I didn't know you liked to swim.
I'm not swimming. I'm trying to see if I'm a witch. Am I floating?
Yes.
Wicked.
No one mourns the wicked, no one cries and won't return, no one lies a lily on their grave. Welcome back to StillerBros at the movies, where today, after a year of waiting, we finally get to see the second half of a movie we talked about last year, Wicked for Good.
So, most of the preconceptions that from last video can basically be copy-pasted here, and rather than do that, it's up in the card, so check that out first.
But either way, yes, the first half of that movie was a good first half of that movie. Thank God. A movie that's been waiting for almost 30 years to be finally finished, actually coming out and not only being good, but possibly great, depending on your general opinion on musical movies and everything like that.
But the thing of it is that now we're actually more excited to see this one than we were to see the last one.
But we should still temper our expectations. Like we said last time, we are not really, by most people's definition, theater kids, and we've never seen Wicked on Broadway. But from what we have heard from people who actually are part of the fandom of this musical, the second half is significantly weaker than the first half.
And you can tell that just because of the fact that we only know one song from this half of the show.
You can tell that by the fact that most of the songs that people remember from the musical, Defying Gravity, What Is This Feeling, Popular, Dancing Through Life, No One Mourns the Wicked. But here it's one, maybe two songs that are considered popular. And yes, one of them is one of the most played songs out of this entire musical, in the fact that it's an incredibly versatile song. We've personally heard it at graduation ceremonies, funerals, and just two friends saying goodbye to each other because they're that particular strain of theater nerds.
Yeah.
But that's probably why, when it came time to actually make this movie and finish it up and put it out, instead of calling it Wicked Part 2, after they had kind of unceremoniously named the first part Wicked Part 1, only in the titles and not in the actual advertising.
Just like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
But instead of deciding, oh, we're going to do this, they decided to subtitle it For Good, so that all the people who were disappointed that they saw the entire Wicked movie and didn't hear a single note of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo singing For Good, well, you're going to see it here. So come in and watch this movie and sit through all 2.5 hours of it to get to For Good.
Yeah. And
but yeah, it's been a kind of crazy year when it comes to the difference between when the first half of Wicked came out and now when the second half is coming out. Mostly in the fact that Wicked did end up kind of being an unexpected hit. Like, obviously, one of the most popular musicals of the last 30 years getting a film adaptation was going to end up being popular, but then this movie ended up being a huge critical and commercial success, breaking records, getting nominated for a bunch of awards, and actual awards, not just the kinds that will be like, look, it's a popular movie, can you just like give us an award nomination so that we can pretend we actually won something?
It got such recognition, and it is insane to think about, because 10 years ago, John M. Chu's career was basically should have been over.
You don't make 2 Justin Bieber movies and Gem and the Holograms and expect your career to be going places.
But then suddenly he makes 2 great movies, and he's this in-demand, high-profile director.
If it wasn't for Crazy Rich Asians, John M. Chu would probably still be just making low-budget movies that nobody was seeing. He'd probably be really catered to the streaming market at this point. But because he made Crazy Rich Asians, and because he made In the Heights, and now because he made Wicked, suddenly his career is on a huge upswing.
If it wasn't for Crazy Rich Asians, his career probably wouldn't be where it is right now, because that came out and was a huge hit, and that's what got him all of these high-profile works, and now he's got the 2 Wicked movies. It's insane and kind of inspirational that a guy who 10 years ago made a movie so bad that he got death threats about it is now the director of an Academy Award nominated movie.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing that this movie even exists after all this. Plus the fact that, well, what else is there to be said about this during the preconceptions, considering the fact that, like we said all of this a year ago. Pretty much everyone from the first movie is back. Nobody got left over except for maybe 1 or 2 side characters that are just completely unimportant.
There is no real new cast members added to this movie, at least not ones with notable actors.
Like, we've got Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo. You lied a bit, because we do have a new cast member with a notable actor. Because in addition to Jonathan Bailey and Ethan Slater playing the 2/3 of the Wonderland crew that helped Dorothy on her travels, we also have Coleman Domingo.
Yes, that's right. We have Coleman Domingo voicing the Cowardly Lion. But other than that, it's pretty much the same cast. We still have Keala Settle and Ethan Slater and Jonathan Bailey and Michelle Yeoh and, of course, Jeff Goldblum.
And everyone is all here, mostly because they shot this movie at the exact same time they were shooting the other movie. So odds are pretty good that everything got kind of put together in a way that it's like, oh, we're shooting Defying Gravity today, we're shooting No One Mourns the Wicked tomorrow, and then we're going to shoot No Good Deed, and then we're going to go all the way back to shooting What's This Feeling next week.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What else is there? There's at least 2 new songs in it. Steven Schwartz is finally doing the whole, okay, we made the whole movie without adding any songs for the Let's Get It Best Song Oscar nomination push. But now we are putting out 2, a new Galinda song and a new Elphaba song.
Yes. So Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo both get to test their pipes and originate brand new songs.
And yeah, what else is there? Wicked kind of ended up being one of the last big movies of last year. Gee, I wonder why a movie about a young woman of color going up against a notorious con artist who is trying to sow the seeds of bigotry and chaos in order to seize fascistic control from the government would have been somewhat relevant last year. It's been a year, guys.
It's been a fucking year. God knows we've had a long fucking year.
But, yeah. What else is there to say? I'm sure a bunch of Universal executives were happy that the first movie got so well received, because that meant that they could keep the hype going for good by keeping all of the merchandise from the first movie out on the shelves for a whole year, instead of just like the first part of the year and then wait until around now to start putting out new merchandise, which is just the old merchandise with For Good slapped on the label.
Yeah, that's kind of another insane thing about this, is that because this came out exactly a year after the last one, where we're kind of accustomed to sequels being so different from the last one, and also being roughly 2 years after the last one, that they basically got to keep the hype train going from the last one without ever really dropping out of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, most movies have to go away for a little while, but here it feels like the fandom was really working hard to keep it alive through speculation and joking around and fan art show you without us getting flagged by YouTube.
Well, there's plenty more of that next time.
But either way, yeah, what else is there to be said? Wicked for Good is a movie that exists. As far as we know, it's about the weaker half of the story, which it's kind of the problem here, if it's weaker, that we kind of fall into the same trap that It Chapter 2 fell into, where we have this story that filmmakers have been trying to make a proper version of for decades, and then when the time came, we were in the midst of being like, wait, we can kind of split movies in half and make double the profits. And the best way to do that here is because this is the kind that actually warrants it. Because, oh look, there's an actual spot where the story splits in half, so let's do that. But the problem being that part 1 is the part that everybody likes, and part 2 is the part that everybody's like, okay, that felt not as good as the first part.
Granted, this time around, like we've said, they're not having to worry about having to digitally de-age kids because they shot this 2 years later.
Yeah, but we'll see. I don't know. We've rambled. We've probably said what else is there to say about Wicked for Good before going on for a few more minutes afterwards. Enough times that it's probably annoying. But for right now, we'll see after the jump. So, I think that was pretty good.
It was pretty good. I feel like it was a little long.
Yeah. The problem with trying to match up to the first movie is the fact that the first movie was 2 hours long. Now, granted, those 2 hours were filled with a lot of stuff that I couldn't personally say they didn't need to cut, but it's also the fact that the Broadway musical has to be shorter than that.
I mean, the first one was kind of long too, but this one is shorter than the last one.
But it feels so much longer.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about it is just the fact that it felt like it needed to be darker, edgier, more adult-oriented, and everything like that, because we're past the bright, sunny schoolyard rivalry of the first movie and into the actual down and dirty politics of the world of Oz that they were alluding to in the first one, but have to full-on do in this one.
Yeah.
And also, you can kind of tell that this movie was being rewritten in the 2020s.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But let's get a little deep into it. The performances are still as good as they were the first time around.
I was really impressed with Ariana Grande this time around because she carries this half of this movie more than she really carried the last one. The last one was Elphaba's movie. This one is really Glinda's movie.
Yeah, this is very much the movie that is Glinda's character arc coming to its major apex. Even if occasionally it will feel like Cat Valentine entered the world of Oz.
Yeah.
And Cynthia Erivo, she's not slouch in this movie either. When it comes time for her to give her big, powerful moments like No Good Deed, she's really, really there.
Yeah. Jonathan Bailey is really good in this.
As much as he is in this, him and Ethan Slater kind of got shunted off to the side for this.
I didn't mind that because I'm going to be honest, and this is just kind of personal taste. I was not a fan of Ethan Slater in this movie.
Yeah, maybe it's just how little of an impact Bach and Fierro have to do in this movie, whereas the focus is generally on the relationship between Glinda and Elphaba. So the two guys in this are just kind of, okay, you're here because we kind of feel like we need you to be here for what the twist of the final movie is going to be, but otherwise it's the girls' movie.
Yeah, but at the same time it's just kind of a personal taste of I wasn't that huge a fan of Bach in the last movie, and this movie really didn't change that.
Yeah, mostly because Bach is not framed as the best of characters.
No, he's not exactly a good person, and while there is one particular moment in this movie that is timely and you feel a little sympathy for him, I don't really feel bad for what happened to him.
Yeah, you can almost feel the fact that he was rewritten to be some kind of like incel. If he existed in this world, he'd probably be listening to a lot of Joe Rogan, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't be like going out to the gym and trying to get buff, but he'd definitely be thinking Joe Rogan is the voice of my generation.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, Jeff Goldblum is still at his Jeff Goldblumiest as the Wizard of Oz. Michelle Yeoh is still doing what little she has to do with Madame Morrible.
What little Marissa Bode is in this movie, she's very good.
Yeah, it's nice to have her character be a little bit more complex than just kind of the girl who doesn't want to be seen as like fragile, delicate, and sad because she's stuck in a wheelchair.
No, they took away some of the ableism, but she really wasn't in this movie a lot anyway, so
yeah,
it kind of...
Once again, for a 2-hour plus runtime, a lot of the side characters kind of got ignored in favor of what Glinda and Elphaba are feeling within the moments. So I guess at this point we need to mention the 2 new songs that Stephen Schwartz added, No Place Like Home and The Girl in the Bubble, which, once again, you can really tell that this movie was being written in the 2020s, with the fact that No Place Like Home very much feels like a story based on, wow, immigrants sure are getting mistreated in this world, and The Girl in the Bubble literally being a song about naivete called The Girl in the Bubble.
Yeah. But this movie really feels like it was made in the 2020s, and it's upsetting for that because there's a lot of stuff that feels really timely, and when they were making this movie, they were clearly really hoping it wouldn't be timely, and unfortunately we live in a world where a lot of this stuff that is happening in this movie is happening now, and it's upsetting to think that the bad guys are out there winning.
And yeah, they do some interesting little things with the mythology, like the Cowardly Lion is very clearly a representation of childhood trauma coming through to completely misdirect your sense of urgency, your sense of anxiety to the wrong direction. The idea of people being forced into circumstances, and when that's all you know and you're taken out of it, suddenly the trauma makes you think you destroyed my life and now I have to deal with the outcome of it.
And the fear-mongering of the other.
Yeah, a lot. It's really, really sad just how timely this book and this movie and this play have just all become, but we don't need to dwell too much on the politics of it, even though that's pretty much the main focus of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, once again, the directing is just as good as it was before. The guy from Teen Beach Movie, man, he sure can choreograph a scene.
Yeah.
And Alex Brooks' cinematography. At times it's very much the same kind of thing with the first movie, where it's like some of them are shot like a standard Hollywood studio movie at this point. Sometimes it'll be like, okay, now let's turn on some pink gels so we can get some color in here and some green gels. And then there's a lot of points where the movie is just murky browns and blacks.
Yeah. There's moments where it's kind of really dark, and if I'm being honest, difficult to see.
It doesn't help that our main character is a shade of green that blends in with the background and typically wears all black.
Yeah. But it's still visually interesting, especially the production design, which is something we didn't touch on last time we talked about the last movie.
The fact that they're attempting to do something very close to the original Wizard of Oz movie while also trying to put their own spin on it just simply because they don't have the rights to the old stuff.
But at the same time, I've said it before and I said it again, and I'm going to keep saying it, I love practical effects, and there's so much practical stuff on screen.
And, I mean, yeah, it really is something that you can see that they're in a big set, that you can kind of see the real makeup effects on certain characters, and that you can see just real props being handed to real actors, and they made them and worked on them.
There's giant sets, there's big mechanical objects around them that are actually moving.
And, yeah. But still, the movie does kind of drag. There are whole moments that it feels like they were just like, we need to like really hammer these story beats in, and then it's just kind of like, okay, can we get to the next song or something? Because this is going on for a while.
it feels long. It feels like, at times it feels like the characters are going around in circles. We seem to just keep getting into the exact same situation with Vero like 2 or 3 times.
Before eventually it's like, okay, time for his ultimate twist, which, if you weren't paying attention in the first half, and I apologize for spoiling that in the first half, I was not thinking, but still, if you weren't paying attention to that and you don't know how this ends, I'm gonna try not to spoil it for the rest of it.
Yeah.
But still, this is a movie that's kind of not as good as the previous movie, but as a whole, I think it's about the same as I've heard the Broadway play is, where it's like the first act has all this good stuff in it, and the second act is, well, it's there.
I mean, it ends the story, which is the best we can do, and now we can get excited for what happens next with John M. Chu and his career.
But yeah, it's good.
It's good. It's good. It's fine. It's not great. I don't think it's going to be nominated for Oscars this year.
Near as many Oscars as the first one did.
No.
But the musical numbers are decently staged. I could hum more than just As Long As You're Mine, and like No Good Deed, and For Good, obviously, off the top of my head, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll say it one more time just so that you guys believe me. It's fine. But, yeah. Wicked for Good is a perfectly good musical movie. I don't think it's going to be as well remembered as the first one, or maybe it'll turn around and everyone will just be like, oh, what were people thinking at the time? I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll probably rewatch it at some points, maybe as a double feature with the first movie, just to see if it actually fits together. But for right now, it's perfectly fine for what it is.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it for right now. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave in the comments what you may or may not have thought of Wicked for Good, or Wicked, or the play, or the book, or just the entire Wicked duology. And don't forget to tune in next time when it's called A Hustle, sweetheart. Bye.
I put my hands on your body. It feels like, hey, it's a fucking scarecrow again.